Let me ask you something honestly. When you hear the word sexy, what's the first thing that comes to mind? A certain body type? A specific way of dressing? Maybe a look, a style, a vibe you've seen on Instagram that gets thousands of comments. Because if that's where your mind went, I want you to stay with me for a minute because I'm about to completely flip your understanding of what sexy actually is, where it really comes from, and why the women who are most magnetically attracted to high quality men are almost never doing what you think they're doing. And here's the thing, this isn't a conversation about becoming someone you're not. This is about removing everything that's been blocking the version of you that already is that woman. Welcome back, Love Psychology Secrets. If you're new here, this channel is where we talk about love attraction, psychology, and personal growth in a real, honest, no fluff way. If that's something you want more of in your life, hit that subscribe button right now and give this video a like. It genuinely helps us reach more people who need to hear these conversations. Now, let's get into it. Because here's what nobody's telling you, and I mean nobody in the mainstream dating space is saying this clearly enough. Sexy is not a look. Sexy is a state. It's not something you wear, it's something you inhabit. And the reason so many women feel like they're chasing this quality, doing all the right things on the outside and still feeling like something is missing is because they've been handed the wrong map entirely. They've been told to focus on the surface when the real work has always been happening one layer deeper. Here's the thing people get wrong about this, and I see it constantly. They confuse attractive with sexy as if those two words are the same. They're not. Attractive is objective, certain symmetry, certain features, certain grooming choices, they get attention. But sexy is subjective in the most powerful way. Sexy is the thing that makes a man across a room feel like he needs to know who you are before he even speaks to you. It's the energy that makes people lean in when you talk. It's what makes someone remember you long after a first conversation. And here's the critical distinction I want you to hold on to through this entire video. You can be conventionally attractive and completely unsexy, and you can be a woman who doesn't fit a single conventional standard and be the most captivating person in every room she walks into. I have watched this happen with my own eyes in real life too many times to count. So what I want to do today is break this down, not just theoretically, but practically. We're going to go through the actual qualities, the actual mindset shifts, the actual internal and external changes that make a woman naturally, effortlessly, unmistakably sexy, not in a manufactured way, in a real way, in a lasting way. Let's go. The first thing I want to talk about is presence. And I know that sounds like one of those vague, floaty words that self-help content throws around without ever actually explaining. So let me be specific. Presence in the context of attraction means that when you are somewhere, you are actually there. You are not mentally 3 conversations ahead. You are not checking what people think of you. You are not performing. You are simply fully, completely in the room. And that is rarer than you think. Most people, men and women, move through the world in a kind of fog. They're physically present and mentally somewhere else entirely. Worrying about how they look, rehearsing what to say, calculating how they're being perceived. And when you are that disconnected from the present moment, people feel it. They can't always name it, but they feel it. There is something slightly out of reach about you, something that doesn't quite land, and it creates an invisible distance that has nothing to do with your appearance. Now contrast that with a woman who walks into a room and is simply there. She's not scanning for judgment. She's not performing ease. She's actually at ease. She makes eye contact that feels genuine, not strategic. She listens in a way that makes you feel heard. She laughs when something is actually funny, not when she thinks she should. And the result is magnetic. Because here's the truth about human psychology. We are wired to be drawn to people who are fully in their experience. It signals confidence, security, and something deeply rare in the modern world. Someone who doesn't need the moment to be anything other than what it is. I was talking to a woman recently, sharp, stylish, accomplished, and she told me that despite everything she had going for her, she always felt invisible around men she actually liked. And when we dug into it, the pattern was clear. The moment she was around someone she found attractive, she would leave herself. She'd start performing, trying to be interesting instead of being interested, trying to seem effortless instead of just being natural. And the irony is that the very effort she was putting in to seem attractive was creating the exact opposite effect. The fix wasn't a new outfit or a new conversation opener. The fix was learning to stay in her own body, in her own energy, even in high stakes social moments. That's presence. That's the foundation. And every other quality we're going to talk about today lives on top of it. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because the second quality of a naturally sexy woman is something that almost every mainstream dating coach gets completely wrong. They'll tell you to be mysterious, play hard to get, keep him guessing. And yes, there is something to be said for not laying every card on the table in the first 5 minutes. But the kind of mystery most advice teaches is actually just emotional withholding. And that doesn't create attraction, it creates anxiety. What actually creates the magnetic kind of mystery is depth. And depth is different. Depth is when someone realizes that the more they learn about you, the more there is to learn. It's when a conversation with you doesn't follow a predictable script. It's when you have opinions that surprise people, interests that don't fit neatly into a box, a life that exists fully on its own, independent of anyone else in it. Think about it like this. Imagine 2 books on a shelf. One has a flashy cover, and when you open it, the first chapter gives you everything, all the plot points, all the reveals, nothing left to discover. You feel entertained for a minute, and then you put it down. The other book has a cover that intrigues you, and every chapter opens onto something you didn't expect. You find yourself reading past midnight because you can't figure out where it's going, and you have to know. That's the energy of a woman with genuine depth. You cannot put her down because every layer reveals another layer. And how do you develop that? By actually investing in your inner life, by having experiences, by reading, thinking, learning, building something you care about, by having conversations that go past small talk, by developing perspectives on the world that are genuinely yours, not borrowed from what you think men want to hear. A woman with depth doesn't try to be interesting, she just is, because she's built an interior world worth exploring. But wait, there's another side to this, and I don't want to skip it, because depth without warmth creates a very different kind of wall. And this brings us to the third quality, emotional availability. Now, I want to be careful here, because emotional availability does not mean emotional transparency with everyone. It doesn't mean sharing your deepest wounds on a first date or being vulnerable in ways that make you feel exposed before trust has been established. What it means is that when you are with someone, they can feel that you are actually reachable, that there is a real woman underneath the composed exterior, that you have feelings and you're not afraid to have them. This is something that confuses a lot of women, especially high-achieving independent women who have learned rightly to be self-sufficient. They've trained themselves to be unaffected, unbothered, to never let anyone see them sweat. And in a professional context, that's often exactly right. But in an attraction context, it can work against you because men, and I'm talking about emotionally mature men, the ones worth your attention, are not attracted to a woman who feels like she doesn't need anything. They are attracted to a woman who has chosen them. And you can't feel chosen by someone who's performing in vulnerability. The kind of emotional availability I'm talking about is subtle. It's laughing genuinely at something funny. It's showing real enthusiasm when something excites you. It's being honest when something bothers you instead of pretending it doesn't. It's letting someone know they affected you, not in a desperate way, but in a real human, I'm actually here and you're actually landing kind of way. That's deeply sexy, not because it's weak, but because it's brave. Let me break this down further with something that doesn't get talked about enough in these conversations: the relationship between sexiness and self-possession. And by self-possession, I mean a very specific thing. It means that your sense of self is not determined by how others respond to you in the moment. A woman who is self-possessed can receive a compliment without deflecting it and without being destabilized by it. She can walk into a social situation where she doesn't know anyone and still feel like herself. She can be rejected and feel the sting of it without allowing it to rewrite her story about her own worth. Now, I want to be real with you here because I've had enough conversations with enough women to know that this is where most of the real work lives. Most of the patterns that undermine a woman's natural magnetism, the over-explaining, the people-pleasing, the compulsive need to be liked, the shrinking in certain rooms and overperforming in others, all of it traces back to a foundation of self-worth that was built on external approval. And that foundation is shaky by design because approval comes and goes. Attention comes and goes. The woman who has built her sense of self on something internal, her values, her standards, her relationship with herself, that woman has a stillness about her that cannot be faked. You've met women like this. Maybe you couldn't articulate what it was about them at the time, but you noticed it. There's something grounded in them, something that doesn't scramble for validation, something that says quietly but unmistakably, I know who I am, and I'm not asking you to confirm it. That energy is intoxicating to the right people and deeply uncomfortable to the wrong ones. And both of those outcomes, by the way, are wins. I think about a woman I spoke to who described herself as the girl who always became whoever the man she was dating needed her to be. She was funny when he needed funny, calm when he needed calm, available always, always softening her edges, always adjusting. And she was genuinely confused about why every relationship ended the same way, with the man losing attraction and eventually drifting. The pattern she couldn't see was this: you cannot sustain attraction to someone you cannot find. And she had made herself so adaptable, so accommodating, that there was nothing consistent enough to hold on to. He could never quite find her because she was always rearranging herself to meet him where he was. Self-possession is the antidote to this. It's knowing your edges well enough that you don't erase them for anyone. It doesn't mean inflexibility. It means identity. And identity is deeply attractive because it's rare. Now, here's a point that most relationship content completely sidesteps, and I want to go here because it's important. Sexuality and sensuality are not the same thing, and understanding the difference is one of the most powerful shifts you can make. Sexuality, in the way it's often marketed, is performance. It's a curated image. It's about what you show. Sensuality is entirely different. Sensuality is about how you experience. It's how fully you are in your senses. It's how much pleasure you allow yourself to feel in everyday moments, the warmth of a good meal, the feeling of a fabric against your skin, the sound of music you love. A sensual woman doesn't just appreciate things, she inhabits them. She doesn't rush through experiences, she actually arrives in them. And here's why this matters for attraction. When you are a person who genuinely enjoys life, not performing enjoyment, but actually feeling it, other people want to be around you. Because in a world where most people are numbed out, rushing through, half present, you become a source of aliveness. And aliveness is magnetic. I'm telling you, a woman who genuinely loves what she loves, who gets excited about the things that excite her, who eats something delicious and actually savors it, who dances because she loves the feeling of it. That woman is more compelling than any performance of sexiness I have ever seen, because she isn't trying to seem a certain way. She is experiencing her life, and that draws people in. Think about it like this. Imagine two restaurants. One has incredible marketing, beautiful photos, a curated social media feed, a name people are buzzing about. You go there and the food is fine. It feels designed to impress, not to actually satisfy. Then there's a little place you found by accident with no social media presence and mismatched chairs, and you take one bite and you close your eyes. The food was made by someone who genuinely cared about flavor, who put themselves into it. Which one are you going back to? Which one are you telling your friends about? Sensuality is the second restaurant. It's the real thing. And people can feel the difference between someone who has cultivated genuine pleasure in living and someone who is producing an image of it. This is also, by the way, why the women who are trying the hardest to appear sexy are often the least compelling, while the woman in the corner who is just genuinely having a good time is the one everyone is watching. She's not trying, she's just full. Let me keep going, because there is something I haven't said yet that changes the entire conversation about what makes a woman naturally sexy, and that is standards. Not rules, standards. Because there is a massive difference. Rules are external. Don't text first. Wait 3 days. Never seem too interested. You've heard all of them. And rules create a kind of brittle, performed version of attraction that collapses the moment the script runs out. Standards are internal. A standard is, I know what I want, I know what I won't accept, and I'm not willing to pretend otherwise because I'm afraid of losing someone. Standards create a very specific kind of energy that high quality men, and by that I mean emotionally mature, secure, intentional men, find genuinely compelling, because a man who is serious about a real relationship is not looking for someone who has no standards. He's looking for someone who has standards that he can meet. The absence of standards isn't attractive, it's an invitation for chaos. It says, I will allow you to define this situation, and the men who want a real partnership don't actually want that power. They want a woman who is going to hold the container with them, not for them, but with them. Now, and this is crucial, standards without self-worth become rigidity. They become a performance of independence that actually masks fear of intimacy. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about standards that come from a place of genuine self-knowledge. I know what makes me happy. I know what a healthy dynamic feels like in my body. I know the difference between a man who is genuinely interested and a man who is keeping me in rotation. And I am not willing to stay somewhere that doesn't feel right just because the alternative is being alone. That's a standard. And when it comes from that place, it's not intimidating to the right man. It is deeply, deeply attractive. I was talking to someone recently who had been single for over 2 years after a long relationship that depleted her. She'd spent a few months trying to get back into dating the conventional way, apps, first dates, following all the rules, and nothing was landing. And she came to me feeling like maybe she was just too much or too intimidating or past her prime somehow. And I remember asking her, do you actually know what you want? Not what you're supposed to want, not what sounds good to say, what you actually genuinely want in a partnership. And she went quiet for a long moment and she said, I'm not sure I've ever really sat with that question. And that was it. That was the whole thing. She had been so busy managing how she was being perceived that she had completely lost touch with what she was actually looking for. The moment she reconnected with that, when she got clear on what she valued, what she needed, what she was willing to invest in, and what she wasn't, something shifted in her energy. She stopped auditioning. And within a few months, she was in the most easeful reciprocal relationship she'd ever been in. Not because she changed her look, not because she learned new conversational tactics, because she found herself again. And herself was compelling. Now, I want to talk about something that sits at the very intersection of everything we've covered so far. And it's this, the way you carry your body. Not in the fitness sense, though. Physical health matters, and I'll touch on that in a moment. I mean, the way you inhabit your physical self, your posture, your pace, your physical ease. Because your body is always broadcasting. Always. Whether you know it or not, the way you move through space is communicating something to everyone around you. A woman who walks like she's apologizing for taking up space, shoulders rounded, gaze down, pace that suggests she doesn't want to be noticed, communicates something. A woman who walks like she belongs wherever she is, head level, easy in her stride, occupying her full height, communicates something entirely different. And here's what I want to be clear about. This is not about arrogance. It's not about performing confidence you don't feel. It's about allowing your body to stop minimizing you. Because a lot of women have been socialized, consciously or not, to make themselves physically smaller, to take up less space, to be easy to miss. And that socialization is worth interrogating because it's working against your natural magnetism. Your body is where your confidence lives. It's not just a vehicle you're moving through the world in. It's the primary signal you're sending before you open your mouth. And when you start treating it that way, when you start moving through the world as someone who is at home in themselves, at home in the room, at home in their own skin, the shift in how people respond to you is almost immediate. I've seen women make this adjustment and come back weeks later astonished at the difference. Nothing changed except the way they moved, and everything changed. And yes, I do want to briefly speak to physical health because I think we can acknowledge it without making it the whole story. When you invest in your body, in your fitness, your sleep, your nutrition, your energy levels, it's not just about appearance, it's about vitality. And vitality is deeply attractive. There's a kind of aliveness in a woman who takes care of herself, not obsessively, not as a performance, but as an act of genuine self-respect that comes through in everything. Her skin, her energy in a room, her capacity to be present, the way she holds herself. It's not about a specific size or shape. It's about the signal that says, I value myself enough to take care of this body I'm in. And that signal is part of the whole picture of natural, effortless sexiness we've been building this entire video. Let me now talk about something that is wildly underrated in discussions about attraction, and that is humor. Not the ability to tell jokes, but the ability to be genuinely, unselfconsciously easy in the way you engage with the world. There is a lightness that deeply sexy women carry. They don't take every moment seriously. They can laugh at themselves without it being self-deprecation. They can find the absurdity in everyday situations. They bring a kind of play into their interactions that makes spending time with them feel good. And feeling good around someone is at its most basic level what drives attraction. Think about it from a practical standpoint. If every interaction with you is heavy, if every conversation goes to an intense emotional place, if there is a low grade pressure in spending time with you, if you are chronically serious or chronically in your head, people will eventually begin to drift. Not because they don't care about you, but because human beings are wired to move toward experiences that feel good. And lightness feels good. It says, I am not a burden to be around. I am a pleasure to be around. And that distinction between someone who adds weight to the room and someone who adds ease is enormous in the long game of sustained attraction. I'm not saying suppress your depth or your emotions. I'm saying let there also be play. Let there also be ease. Let there be moments where you just delightfully, unapologetically having a good time, because that woman, men don't just find her sexy, they want to keep her. Now, and this is a point I feel strongly about, I want to address the role of independence in all of this because I think it gets both overvalued and undervalued at the same time. It gets overvalued in the sense that I don't need anyone has become a cultural badge of honor, a way of signaling strength that actually, when you look at what it produces, creates emotional unavailability and repels real partnership. And it gets undervalued in the sense that some women still feel like having a full, rich, autonomous life is somehow going to make them less attractive to men. Here's where I want you to land on this. A woman with a life she loves, independent of any relationship, is one of the most attractive people on the planet. Not because having a full life is a dating strategy, but because the quality of her life is a direct reflection of the quality of her relationship with herself. And that relationship, the one you have with yourself, is the source of everything. Every ounce of natural magnetism you carry starts there. When you have things you're building, people you love, experiences you're genuinely excited about, work that matters to you, hobbies that fill you up, you are not sitting around waiting to be chosen. You are living. And when a man steps into that life, he isn't just getting a woman, he's getting a whole world. And the right man will feel the enormity of that privilege immediately. I want to be real with you about something because I think the biggest lie that the mainstream beauty and dating industry tells women is that sexiness is a destination. You get there once you lose the weight, once you get the right hairstyle, once you figure out the right way to smile or the right dress to wear. And women spend years, sometimes decades, waiting to arrive at the version of themselves that they're allowed to feel sexy in. And meanwhile, their actual life, their actual magnetism, their actual power is sitting right beneath the surface, waiting. Natural sexiness is not something you achieve. It's something you uncover. It's what happens when you stop performing and start living. When you stop asking, am I enough? And start operating as though you already know the answer. And the answer, in case no one has said this to you clearly enough recently, is yes. So let me bring this home. Because we've covered a lot of ground today, and I want to make sure you walk away with something you can actually use. We talked about presence, the single most powerful signal of confidence and inner security, and the one most women abandon the moment they feel attracted to someone. We talked about depth, not performed mystery, but a genuine interior life that makes you endlessly interesting to the people who are capable of appreciating it. We talked about emotional availability, being reachable, being real, being willing to let the right people land. We talked about self-possession, knowing yourself well enough that you don't disappear trying to please someone else. We talked about sensuality, not as performance, but as the capacity to actually experience your life. We talked about standards that come from self-knowledge rather than fear. We talked about how you carry your body, your lightness, your ease, and the irreplaceable magnetic quality of a woman who has a life she genuinely loves. None of these things require a makeover. None of them require a fitness transformation or a wardrobe overhaul or a list of conversational techniques. They require something both simpler and harder than any of that: the decision to actually show up as yourself fully without apology. Here is the mindset I want you to take from this video. Stop trying to become someone men find sexy. Start investing in becoming the most alive, most self-knowing, most fully inhabited version of you that exists. Because that woman, she is naturally, effortlessly, undeniably sexy, not because she's trying, because she's real. And realness in a world drowning in performance is the rarest and most powerful thing of all. I'll leave you with this question. If you took away the things you do for external approval, the performance, the rules, the strategy, who is the woman underneath? Because she's the one worth knowing. She's the one worth becoming. And she's the one who doesn't have to try. If this video hits something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me which one of these qualities do you think you most need to reconnect with. I read every comment. If you're not subscribed yet, now is the time. We go deep on love, psychology, and real personal growth on this channel every week. And I'll see you in the next one.